Welcome to Utah Stories. So we've talked a lot about permanent supportive housing. We know a lot about Section 8 housing, all the housing offers that they have for people who have been on the streets, trying to get off the streets. But we haven't really provided a firsthand account of what it's like to live in the shelters and try to crawl your way up out of the housing situation that you might find yourself in after you've been homeless. So with us on the program today is Tommy Candilaria.
Yes, that's me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Tommy. And so let's just start with your story. How did you first find yourself on the streets in Salt Lake City? And then let's get back to how you became a manager of one of these facilities and what you found and experienced when you first were on the streets and then got off and then became a manager, and then how you lost that job.
Roughly it was June 11th, 2020. Came back here because I'm from Salt Lake City. Found out I had Lyme disease. This was during COVID, and I ended up in the Men's Resource Center. And I was shocked at what I saw was going on there: the drugs, the violence, the just complete disregard for people and helping people build their self-esteem and help them find a way to get off the streets. And I had some questions because I'm a retired nurse, live-in nurse from California. I've done it for years. And I asked them why they didn't have the American Disabilities Act posted. And their response was, we're private. I kind of got offended because I know different. And so I questioned them. They sent me to Gail Miller. I had a service dog. Experienced terrible things there, too. I got kicked out because my dog got attacked, and I got angry and threatened to go to media and sue him. And so I ended up at the...
Your dog got attacked?
Twice.
By one of the...
German Shepherd, the same German Shepherd.
Oh, your dog got attacked by a German Shepherd, another dog?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a shelter dog, and I snapped the second time. I almost choked that dog to death. I have childhood PTSD. I've got Lyme disease. I wasn't in the best of shape, and then that whole situation just was too much. My dog didn't even want to go back, so we stayed in my car for a month. I got into the City Inn, where I was there for 4 months, had the road home.
So when you first got into City Inn, that must have been a relief. You could be there with your dog.
Yeah, well, being desperate like that and then getting in, it was great. I had my own space, privacy.
And was that permanent supportive housing? Is that what they called that? Or that was just Section 8 housing? Or
I was Title 42.
Oh, Title 42. Okay.
Well, actually, let me think about that now. I actually wasn't Title 42 yet because I was paying $790. I had my stimulus checks. I had...
that doesn't sound like a discount on rent. $790 a month?
And you didn't pay utilities, but the plumbing flooded. It's terrible. But when I got there, I was in room 2, right next to the office, and I had been telling my boss that when they made me manager, Mike Namahui, who was a BYU grad football player, I'm going to be your next manager. Well, they had hired a couple, but there was some issues of domestic violence and alcoholism. So they came to me, and I said, sure. So we signed a contract, and they paid me $1,000 a month, and it's right there explanatory what my duties were,
Here.
To keep it safe. And before I became manager, there was the girl down the thing.
And the City Inn, sorry, so can you say the address of where that's at?
1025 North, 900 West.
Okay, so kind of a rough part of town.
Rose Park, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not too bad, though.
Well, the city council down there, I really thought they had done some good things, because you have the school down there and you have Smith's, and it wasn't real bad, but you could see when people were coming onto property who was using. My involvement back in the younger days, I know this world. Nothing like this, but you can see the similarities in when people get paid, the fluctuation of dealers coming in, people using, hey, can I use your apartment? I'll give you some or I'll pay you. It was rampant.
Drug activity.
And
all
I'm
the
noticing
time.
this, and I'm only there 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had gun violence, auto theft, theft of a lot of stuff. And so when I made manager, I got a hold of the police department, Detective Oliver, police cameras. He brought one over. I worked with a detective in auto theft, Patrol Officer Hendricks, who was real helpful. He knew my younger brothers. He goes, I don't remember you. And it was kind of cool because I could relate to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a narcotics officer that I reported license plates. That I reported license plates to.
Mm-hmm.
And things were going good.
So you were reporting to them. You were the manager, and getting paid $1,000 a month. Your rent $790. I don't know how you live.
Well, I had Social Security.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of nice being self-sufficient. No food stamps.
You could live off that.
Yeah, $300 a month to feed my giant dog. And that was my crutch. He was my crutch. And so after I started confronting parole officers, probation officers, and caseworkers about 3 clients, I watched them do heroin fentanyl. And I mean, I'm surprised. It's 16 degrees outside, and they're running around barefoot with a pair of sweats on, no shirt. And so I tell these people, caseworkers from the road home. Next thing I know, Keith Warburton's telling me, you need to stop this. Michelle Flynn wants us to fire you. I go, well, you guys want me to clean it up, or you're going to have...
So just to make it clear, Keith Warburton is the property owner?
Property owner.
But the road home is the manager?
The road home had 7 or 8 units that they rented to.
Okay. So they basically... Keith Warburton subleased 8 units to the road home.
Yeah, they had them reserved for the road home.
Got it.
And when I go, oh, God, it must have cost you guys an arm and a leg to get the permits to remodel these rooms into kitchenettes. And my supervisor, Mike, who was on-site supervisor before me, and they gave me the position so he could go find investors for the properties that they own.
That Keith Warburton could go find more investors.
Yeah, and...
Just a little bit of background, Keith Warburton was the developer who got the $2 million to redevelop the Ramada Inn.
Yeah.
And he could not gain enough additional financing to even start the project, so he had to back out. And so the Ramada Inn was supposed to be deeply affordable housing completed as of today. Instead, it's an abandoned, empty building, and nobody can stay there, and the winter's coming.
Well, the thing is about that's another nightmare, because Todd, the maintenance guy at the Building 9 where I was at, this old City Inn, I kept in touch with these guys. He helped me move. He didn't understand why they were treating me like this. He goes, it's so unfair. He goes, these guys looked at me and said that you're good for this place, because I could relate to these people.
Because you were trying to clean it up. You were trying to
and not on a pedestal position, but I've had surgeries. How can you not take pain meds? And vets coming to me with this, Vietnam vets. And I'm telling them I don't want it. It's I have an addictive personality. I've recognized that. I've gotten my life together, and I want to help you guys. And it was kind of being ignored, like we're getting their money. It don't matter what they're doing, because if he dies, ODs, gets put in jail, we can put people back in these units. And he was a veteran. That's the gentleman that was killed on the scooter, Victor Barstwick.
Oh, really?
And I told him that either the drugs were going to kill him or that lifestyle. And that guy that ran him over, I'm sure Victor did something stupid. And I have respect for him as a human being. But that could have been me.
So you're watching this place getting overrun by drug abuse and crime and criminal. You're trying to do your best to clean it up, and you're told to stop.
Basically...
Stop or you're getting
I told
fired.
him I wasn't going to pay rent no more. I was tired of this. This was after a guy named Brigham Gunther, who was a epileptic. When I met him a year and a half prior in the shelter, he revealed to me that he was a pedophile. And so what? You're a human being. You made a mistake. That's between you and God and in the court. So if you're changing your life. And he wasn't a meth head. And the guy that got him into it, I mean, Officer Hendricks, I mentioned Patrol Officer Hendricks. He was there on site because of another incident, and we found him in his room dead. And if I hadn't gone to Matt, the maintenance guy, and told him, he would have stayed in there for 2 or 3 days, because he had a dog and I had a dog, and we'd see each other walking him in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'd go about my duties, and that's when I said I had enough. And
so because the death toll was getting too high, there was
3 that I predicted.
Yeah. And was this before the flood you said you had enough?
Oh, you're talking about the sewage flooding?
Yeah.
The pipe? That was after. That was after the cockroaches.
Okay, so that was even after. It got even worse after you said you had enough.
Yeah.
So what did they say to you?
Told me to stop.
Just stop reporting all this. Don't work with the cops. Like, stop what?
Well, when I called the cops and I first experienced them, and I didn't get their names or anything, but they got me upset when one lady cop goes, What do you think we are, your muscle? I was kind of just, I swear to God.
No way.
Right. And I just got,
exactly. That's what you're
and
supposed
I got
to
a little drug. They turned around and walked away, and I go, hey, both of you. And they turned around, and I told them F you and F you. And then when I talked to Hendricks, I explained what happened, and I was told to call you guys if I needed help so I didn't have to engage this. They even tried running a car into the office. That's on police record, the assaults.
Who tried running a car into the office?
I ain't going to mention the gentleman's name. His name's Melton, first of all, but his friends, after we locked him up, there was a hit-and-run incident on Beck Street. A red truck slammed into a car. People were in critical. Mm-hmm. He was in that car. They were stealing those big Mercedes vans, those big ones that are worth like $200,000.
Oh, the Sprinters.
They were bringing him there, yeah.
Huh.
And so my job was to combat it. And I knew Milton from playing recreational softball 40 years ago. Been a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a vet. And so a couple of days after he went to jail, it was in January, and they tried to run a car into the office and missed the whole building.
They trying to do that vindictively toward you?
Yeah, they tried to get me outside. The police cameras. If I'd been in the office, because I would leave the TV on and they had good cameras, I would check them every morning. But I get up at 1:30, 2 o'clock, banging at my door. Somebody just ran through the fence. There was nobody in it. They put a ice scraper on the gas thing. You could see them. It was all on camera, everything. But they waited. They staged a little accident. It was a stolen vehicle. They staged the accident, hoping I was in the office and would come out and say, what's going on? I could have been shot, stabbed, or beat. And, you know, even...
And so why were these people trying to kill you?
Well, they wanted to hurt me, I know that, but they wanted to retaliate because you take away the livelihood of drug dealers, prostitutes, the money they're making, they retaliate. And I had told Keith Warburton, Mike Namahui, they're going to do this. That's like the lion. You're going to take its food away, it's going to fight for it. And, you know, how do I know this? I've seen that life. I left that life. Mm-hmm. And it hurt me because I kept saying that you want to help us, but you're hurting us. You're setting everybody up for failure by having this type of exposure to the things that may have been keeping them on the streets, be it alcohol, any other types of drugs.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were times I said, you know what, you should get up and leave. And then I said to myself, no. After what you've gone through, you've survived so much in the last 35, 40 years that you need to stand up and fight. And it's not for me. I'm a senior citizen. I have rights. I've got PTSD. No, I'm not a vet. But what happened to me as a child, having both my hands burn over a gas stove, that could have been me. Mm-hmm. And if you go into these shelters and these places, they're supposed to help build your self-esteem. Mm-hmm. Or say, hey, I know you're doing drugs. A lot of them used to tell me, you've been fair with me, that got kicked out of there. And I says, you can get help. You just got to let all that go.
Well, what I think that why I really wanted you on the show today is when one person stands up, says that's not okay, this has got to stop. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of turning around not only the city but a neighborhood. And I've seen that happen. Helper, Utah, a friend of mine, said, no more prostitutes here, no more drugs here. And he stood up for 3 years. He turned around that whole corner, that whole neighborhood, because he was willing to stand up and say, stop.
I was born in Price, raised my family's.
Yeah, his name's Angel. If you go by his food truck by the it's the first motel as you get off the exit.
Yeah.
He did that. He transformed that area. And
I had heard so, because see, I got family that still owns homes down there, and my Uncle Pete was the barber, and I mean.
But so my point is, you're doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. You're doing a great thing, because you stop these drug dealers and these prostitutes and all this criminal activity by reporting it. Mm-hmm. But then instead of the property owner embracing what you're doing, he's telling you to stop. Are you kidding me? That's what can make all of this end, is courageous people standing up and saying, no, we're not going to stand by and watch this happen.
I agree 100%. And the thing is I've looked back on my life, and whatever's taken place, even the negative stuff, I've said, you know what, I learned from this, and I have something I can share with people because I've experienced it. I've been there. I mean, I gave up at one time and tried to take my life, and for whatever reason, be it a higher power, even the doctors didn't take credit for it. But the things that have happened since, I look back and say, it was well worth it, because it's made me stronger. Mm-hmm. I have this passion. People think I get angry. It's a passion. That I know what it's like to have low self-esteem, to think the world's, why me, God? And I had a pastor one day, he goes, why not you? I go, what do you mean? He goes, look at what you've been through. You could share this with so many people. Mm-hmm. And I was in a ministry after trying to take my life. And he goes, I'm not rejecting you. I just have this feeling that whatever is going to take place in your life is going to be done out there. He goes, because anything that's taken place, God's already know. And if he knew that you were going to hurt yourself and say, no, this ain't going to happen, I want to share it. I want to let people know there's hope.
Yeah, you're a survivor. You're a survivor of abuse as a child and PTSD, and that gives you the capability to identify with the other survivors, the other people who survived childhood trauma, or the trauma of Vietnam or whatever that's caused them to be on drugs. And I think what you're able to do is you're able to humanize them, be down at their level, and actually help them by working with them. But what really bothers me is, instead of you getting an award or getting recognition, you get kicked out of there. I mean, so describe what happened when you said, no, this has got to stop.
Well, I was served with these papers here.
Lawsuit.
Eviction, and I fought it. When I called their attorney and I said, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Last name's McDonald. And I'd mentioned LDS, BYU initials. A lot of commonality in what's going on in the city with the homeless. And I go, 2 questions. I go, did they tell you I was a property manager? He goes, no. Did they tell you I was assaulted 6 times, twice seriously? Did they run a car, and did they try to run a car? And he goes, no. I go, look, Mr. McDonald, if you show up in that hearing and try to defend him without having all the facts, I'm going to report you to the state bar. He didn't show up. Keith Warburton was there. And being that I'm not a dummy, I'm going to fight for my rights. When they served me this, I found some discrepancies, so they had to start the whole process. The constable was kind of amazed. He goes, because you're not like the rest. He goes, usually the rest, they abandon their apartment. No. So I went to court and fought it. 2 weeks left on my lease, and I told the judge what I'm saying here about what I experienced there, and the next thing I know is he goes, well, when's your lease up? I go, 2 weeks, and I don't want to renew it. They don't want to renew it. And I said, Keith Warburton, I go, Keith, look at me, and he put his head down. He couldn't. I go, and you told me you wanted me to succeed. 3 lives, the car in the office. And the judge says, okay, we've heard that already. And he goes, just make sure you don't destroy. And I interrupted the judge. I go, you know what? Everybody thinks that we get so angry we're going to... No. I go, this is a stepping stone into me doing something about this. And that's why I'm here with you, I like to be persistent, tenacious. I'm like a pit bull. I don't let go when it comes to people's rights and being human. because I know what it's like to give up on society and want to end it. And that's a problem, suicide on the street.
Yeah.
And basically, these people that are doing heroin, fentanyl, or whatever drug, it's just a slow death. We need to help them.
Yeah.
We just got $247 million to go towards the opioid crisis. Where's that money at?
Mm-hmm.
It scares me.
Yeah.
You know?
And you see the money pouring in, but then you see it goes to the administrators, and it goes through more administrators, and then when it finally gets to the homeless, it goes to abatements. Like, let's pay for more abatements.
And that's the other thing that I've called city council members, the Rose Park Council. Nobody ever got back to me. And I know what they're thinking. He's just blowing hot air. I'm going on 4 years doing this. And this is like the world just got lifted off my shoulders by you allowing me to sit here and say, I've told everybody, and these people that know this won't speak out against the mayor, the city council, because if they do, they're going to lose their jobs. And I've actually asked 2 gentlemen for Community Connect.
Mm-hmm.
One of them's left here, Aaron Cooper. And, you know, I had another incident about Casa Milagros, but that's another battle.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is one guy, Mike Jones, I still stay in contact. He's told me, you know people that you can refer to me that need help or they're having problems like you. I just called him yesterday and hooked up a guy. And you know, everything happens for a reason. And that's why I say what I was exposed to. I was supposed to go to the shelter. I was supposed to go to Gil Miller. I was supposed to experience all this. And then I had to make one decision. Do I do what everybody else said, that's not my problem? Or do I complain about it? Or do I say, you know what? I got to be a champion for this, and that's me.
Well, I applaud your courage for standing up. There are business owners, I know them personally, who are afraid to speak out.
I know.
And I'm like, you are a business down here in downtown Salt Lake experiencing all this, and you're afraid to speak out? Well, I don't know what she's going to do to me. I don't know what the mayor's got a lot of power. I can't really, she thinks we're friends. And I'm like, but these are your rights. This is your property. Your business is getting destroyed. These people on the street, they need help. Mm-hmm. It's time to speak up. It's time to stand out. It's time to raise your hand and say, I'm willing to help somebody. And it's like I go to my church and I listen, and everybody is a Sunday church goer. But I'm like, the church should exist outside of the walls, right? Isn't the body of Christ in and among the people? Isn't that where the body is supposed to exist? And so I think everybody needs to get out of the walls and go out and realize this is our problem. It's not these people are the problem. Right. This is our problem. It's our collective problem.
You know, it does it. I tear up. I get emotional when I think about the people I've met and heard their problems, and they're not here no longer because nobody wanted to show them some compassion to help build them back up as human beings and feel part of society when you want to shun them. And I've gotten in arguments with people. It hurts when you see, I worked at the Jazz Arena during that monster truck, and I'm coming back from doing security, and people are walking to now the Delta Arena, and I hear this father tell his kid, come here, and picks him up and says, this ain't a very good neighborhood. This is right in the gateway. And it hurt because I remember being raised in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was different. People you said hi to, they say hi. Good morning. And you can walk into a shop and it's changed. You know, even some of the people that came back here after the Olympics and opened businesses, I've sat and talked to them, and because they ask me, well, why are you asking about the homeless? And I say, well, I worked with them. Well, what happened to that program? And I tell them. That's when the Downtown Alliance mentioned me in a meeting and said to Jared Arvanitis, who was running that ambassador program, because you tell him to stop. And like I said just a moment ago, I'm like a pit bull. Yeah. Win, lose, or draw.
Well, that's great.
I'm going to go for the gusto. And the thing is you got young people, like the gentleman over here running the show with the cameras. I want a future for him, his kids, his nieces and nephews. you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know it'll never be like when I was a kid where we ran and played for free. We didn't have to worry about being abducted or other things happening, drug dealers, people defecating in public in front of you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We can change this.
Well, the last guest we were talking about the American dream because we both remember our ancestors and what they came from. My ancestors came from a genocide in Armenia. His came from another revolution in Iran. And it's like when you used to come to America, and maybe it's still to a degree possible, but the socioeconomic rungs that you were climbing, they were clear and they were defined. You might take a tenement housing unit where you have just a room and you share a bathroom and a kitchen, and you could pay $100 and get in there, and then save up your money. Then you get a down payment on a little piece of dirt, and then you build a shack on it. It's like those rungs are missing at the bottom. People don't know how to get back up because there's all these zoning codes and these violations if you're not built to code, and it's like you can't just. There's all this empty land, but it's all owned by somebody way more wealthy than you are. So there's just no affordable housing. Those societal rungs of getting back up on your feet, the government's supposed to provide those now, I suppose. But I don't think they're doing a good job because everybody seems to be stuck at the bottom or incentivized to stay at the bottom.
Well, that's the struggle there, is that people wonder why people end up on the streets, or they deal drugs, or they steal cars, or it's because they're not given opportunities. You know, and me, when I left Utah, I went to Las Vegas, got sober, then had those surgeries 4 and 5 years, and knew that I had an addictive personality, so I surrounded myself around people that were going to support me in my recovery, which I don't like to say I'm still in, but till the day I die, it's so exposed. And for a split second when I was at that hotel's manager, I found meth and heroin. Split second. What would it be like? And then just two little devil and the angel saying, no, look at what you've been through. Look at your accomplishments. Look what you can give back. And that's why I do what I do. You know, like you talk about genocide. Indian on one side, Spanish. Come on. That's like society today. I want to see... And the only way I can put it is I go back to Wizard of Oz, and Mayor Mendenhall and the city council got to go to the Great Oz. They got to get hearts, souls, minds. They got to really look at people as people and saying, would I want my family members living like this? I have a brother out there on Spice. I had a niece that's probably in a drug program because of fentanyl, heroin. And it hurts. It hurts because that could have been me. Mm-hmm. When I left here, I gave everything up. Relationship with my family, my daughter, my grandson. And I'm trying to renew those now. And I know that's another process. But I know who I am today, and I'm hoping that when this airs on YouTube, I'm going to forward it to my daughter. And I won't say what news station she works for. And when I called them, I didn't know she worked for him. So they're saying, oh, you know Tom Candilaria? Oh, yeah, that's my dad. Don't listen to him. Kind of like what the mayor's done, Dan Dugan.
Well, it seems like everybody on the street has family relationships they need to mend. That's a big reason why they're like kicked out of their houses, whatever. Lots of broken family ties there. And the government can't fix that. It's like that's not the job of the government, and they're not gonna do that. But you got to mend those relationships. You got to reach out to your family and ask for help. I mean, that's the way to do it.
You know, I've mentioned about the Downtown Alliance asking me to stop taking to the merchants, and what Jared said, and he was actually laughing when he called me. He goes, "You ain't gonna believe it, man. They brought you up," and I was like, "Wow, why?" He goes, "Oh, you've been talking to the merchants." I go, "Yeah." So after our little conversation, I go, "Well, do you think I should tone it down?" And he goes, "Hell no, turn it up." So that's why I'm here.
So what's your situation now? Where do you live? What do you do?
My cousin Anna Archuleta, she actually was a campaign manager for Rocky Anderson. And she knew what happened at this new unit that I was at, the flooding, and I had to leave because of the health issues with mold spores and my Lyme disease. She offered me a bedroom in a house with a backyard that I'm trimming trees, mowing lawns. I've got a place that I feel comfortable now, and charging me $410 what I was getting for subsidies. And she works from home, and she's advised me on stuff. She thinks it's cool that I'm up here doing this. Yeah. You should look her up, Anna Archuleta. I like to give all these people credit. Jared Arvanitis, the people that...
Archuleta, that's the family that had the singer that went...
Mm-hmm.
Is that the relation to that?
Could be. See, I didn't find out I was related to her until I played football with her older brother, Alfonso, when I went to East High School when I was a sophomore. Met his mom, and she goes, "Oh, that's your cousin. Your grandma lives down on the corner, right?" Which is Williams, right by Liberty Park. And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, you guys are related." And it was kind of weird because you think about them relationships, and he left. He got sick of Utah. He got, like I've said, that LDS BYU connection. And then there is some racism here. People are going to be differential to people that are homeless. Imagine how it is for the ones that are black or from Mexico or,
Yeah.
I just, like I say, I'm on a mission.
Well, cool. I'm really glad you're doing what you're doing. Standing up when not many people will do that. And I hope your story inspires more people to just say, this needs to stop. We're going to report this. And then hopefully the police staffing gets in order so they can have enough great cops out there who are willing to respond.
Well, who was my re-inspiration or who gave me that kickstart again? Is when I sat down and talked to Michael Valentine. At 25, looking at this young man, standing up for what he believes in and wanting to get it out there, that reignited me. That reminded me of them young people that used to protest the Vietnam War and all that violence. And I think we need more of that because that's who's going to be taking care of this world. That's who our future is the young people.
Yeah.
I don't know how old you are, but I want to be
older.
I want to be 105. And people go, "Why would you want to live that old?" So I can sit on the porch on a rocking chair and just be sarcastic and cynical.
That's the greatest luxury in life.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Tommy, for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing
I
your story.
appreciate you too, man.
Yeah. And if people watching want to be a bigger part of the program, of course, hit like and subscribe to the channel. Go visit utahstories.com, subscribe to our free digital newsletter, or subscribe to the print magazine. And for the next little while, you can actually buy a subscription or a membership, and it will come with a VIP ticket to our upcoming screening of Consider, A Voice for the Unsheltered. It's also going to have a film called In Robbie's Words, which is a young boy overcoming a speech impediment, and then a Gondola Works premiere as well, which is about the gondola being built in Little Conwood Canyon, despite 89% of people not wanting it there. So these are the issues that impact the quality of life in Utah. These are the issues we want to tackle here at Utah Stories. If you buy a ticket, you get a membership. You, of course, support our coverage. And behind the camera is Michael Jukes. He's the director of the documentary, the first episode. We've got 4 more episodes planned after the first episode. So if you support that one, you're going to support the other 4 that we want to produce. And it's just getting the voices of the unsheltered, getting down to the truth, talking to folks like Tommy. I'm sure Tommy's got more friends we got to have on this podcast. We need your support to do this because I tell people I'm not anticipating selling a bunch of ads on this podcast because of what we're talking about, but it is very important that we get this out there. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.